Why we need to extend the mapper class? Because this is my child class which I'm writing in my class. If my class should act as a mapper in the Mapreduce framework, if my class should be eligible to act as a mapper, what I need to do? I need to extend the mapper class. If my child class or if my custom class, if it should be eligible for the mapper, yes, I have to extend the mapper class. As soon as I extend the mapper class, the mapper class behavior will be available with my own class. Yes or no? Right? That's why we are extending it. Extending means we are getting the parent class behaviors, and we are start making reuse of the code which is there in the parent class. That's the purpose of the extends. Correct? So that's why we need to extend the mapper class. Okay. So then what is a map method? What is the map method? Your parent class has the three methods: setup, map, and cleanup method. So your map method, your setup is like initialization. Map method is actually where the business logic goes. The cleanup method is where we'll at the end of the task, if you want to clean up some, if you want to close some connections, or if you want to clean up something, so we will use the cleanup method. So let's try to understand the map method. Map method is a protected void. It's not going to return anything. Your map method will take three parameters: a key, a value, and a context. The context is the object. The context is the object. If you look at the context class, if you look at the context class, let me close this. It contains output committer. It contains record reader. It contains the why it is not loading. Yeah. So if you look at the context class, which is the extensive map context, which contains the configuration object, which contains the task attempt ID. So how many tasks and how many, what is the next? Suppose one task is failed. So how many times I'm attempting it? On the task ID, and your record reader, your record writer, output committer, status reporter, input split. All these, which are the required for your job will be available in the context object. Understand guys why the context is a global object where it will contain the all this all these objects: input split, output committer, status reporter, record writer, record reader, and configuration task attempt ID. If you see here, what we are doing, context dot write. Is this clear guys about the mapper class? About the mapper class? This is just logic. So what we are doing, we are splitting the word, we're splitting the line into words, and those words I'm no looping through, I'm writing it. Okay, let's look at the reducer class. So
Ravi, here cleanup method, sorry, here cleanup method and one more method. I
setup,
thought last class you told that we'll explain later.
setup,
Will you take it now or will? Yeah,
setup.
and
Yeah. Okay, let me show you that as well. This is the method I'm talking about. This is the method I'm talking about, setup method. So actually in the parent class, they have not set anything. They didn't write anything. It's that they just declare the method with empty body. Okay, so setup method is main purpose of setup method is before executing your mapper method, your setup method will execute. If you see the comment called once at the beginning of the task, so it means before your actual task, your actual map method is executing, your setup method is will get execute. Why? Because suppose you have some kind of initializations, you have something called declarations. The same map method, your mapper code, I will put it another way. See here, I have declared the global variables like this. Instead of that, what I will do, you just need to type a map, and use the control space. It automatically get filled up. So you can remove this. This is not required. Actually, this context is telling that it is from the mapper class. So you can remove that. Go inside the map. This word equal to new text. One equal to new iterable. One equal to iterable. I can just say like this. I can do like this. What I have done, I have declared the variable, but I have initialized in the setup method because my setup method will execute before my actual method executes. Before my actual method executes. Understand? So I can write like this. Cleanup method. So if I don't have anything to clean here. So if you have a cleanup method, you can write your cleanup method here, and you can just you can just write anything here. If you want to clean up, or if you want to close, or if you want to deallocate something, you can do it here. Understand?
Yes, sir.
So
Fine.
let's see the reducer class. See, I'm not talking about the logic, okay? I'm talking about the what needs to be, it's like syntaxes, okay? So internal logic is based on the use case. It's not always similar. This logic is not never be similar for all the issues, I mean all the use cases, but this syntax is similar. I need to extend the reducer in any class. I need to extend the reducer. I need to override the reduce method. So in any class I need to override the reduce method. The same way, why we are extending the reducer, if my class should be eligible for, my class has to be eligible for reducer, so I have to extend the reducer class. And if you extend the reducer class, you have something called reduce method, you have a setup and cleanup methods. But if you observe here, the key is a single key, and value is iterable. Why value is iterable? As I explained last class, like it will come like this. It's a key and a collection of values. It's a collection of class. Not only Mapreduce, guys. If you take any code, if you take any use case, mapper output will be key and collection of values. Key and collection of values. Why key and collection of values, guys? Anyone tell me? Why key and collection of values? Why single key and collection of values? Before going to reducer, if you guys understand the framework, we can easily tell why it is why it is single key and collection of values. Who will tell me? Srini, Supreet, Srikant, Anila.
It's a word and like number of values.
Oh,
How
yeah, that's
many
what.
times?
Why number of values? Why? My question is why number of values?
Because here key is offset. Offset can have multiple words
No,
and
that's a wrong assumption, Sulba. Let me put it in a different way. Um, input is, I agree. Map input is offset. Input is, I agree. What you are trying to explain is this. That way, that's correct. This is your offset, and this is your complete line. That I agree. I'm talking about mapper output. I'm talking about reducer input. Your mapper output is nothing but a reducer input. Yes or no?
yes,
Your
yes.
your mapper output is single key and collection of values. Why?
Because there are multiple occurrences of words in that file.
Multiple occurrences. Okay, very good. Let's say in one mapper only one time it's occurred. So in this case I don't need the collection of values here. Just
There
think
could be
guys,
multiple mappers for multiple splits.
there will be multiple mappers for multiple splits. Exactly. Exactly. Let me show you here. Let me show you here. I'm just looking at what is there any file I was explaining you guys know. Right. Now, whenever you, that's what I'm trying to say. The last class also I told you what whenever you're designing your mapper code or reducer code, keep in mind that it is not going to be a single mapper, single reducer. It will be multiple mappers will launch or multiple reducers can also be possible. Right? We can set the multiple reducers, but as of now we will let's assume that we'll set only one reducer. I'll tell you why. The default is the number of reducers are one. Okay, but mappers can be launched multiple. Mappers can launch multiple based on the data. Yes or no? Mappers can launch multiple. Let's say here on mapper launched, here on mapper launched, here on mapper launched. This mapper can tell me Hadoop came one time. There may be a chance this mapper also can tell Hadoop one time. Yes or no? This map also can say there is a chance where I can get Hadoop one time. Yes or no guys? Sulba.
Yes, yes, you got it.
After this mapper output, what will happen? There is something called short and shuffle. This output will go, this output, and this output will also take. There is something called shuffle and sort and shuffle, whatever it is. There is a next phase called shuffle and sort. And sort. What is happening here? This guy here, it will sort based on the key and it will group the values. He will group the values. He will not do any summation, he will not do any aggregation in the phase of sort and shuffle. He will just, let's say multiple three hadoops are there. Why three hadoops? Let them group it with a single key value. So actually these are three key value pairs, right? Mapper output key value 1, mapper output key value 2, mapper output key value 3. Suppose if I have 100 mappers, there may be a chance 50 60 hadoop comma 1 may come. So why those many keys? Why there's many keys? You shuffle them, group them, and sort them. So when I and group them, shuffle and sort and group them, I'll get it will make it as a single key, multiple values. Always try to remember, you are always, even though single mapper, Ravi, I don't have Hadoop multiple times. Your Hadoop is not there multiple times. There may be some other key value can be multiple times. No, this Hadoop is single time only, unique key. Maybe something HDFS. HDFS can come on multiple times, or Apache may come multiple times. There may be multiple times, there may be chance, right? So whenever we're designing a logic, we should be thinking that way. The output will be, I'm not going to write a logic for one mapper, I'm writing for the logic for the multiple mappers. So we need to think in that way. So after the multiple outputs you collect, and it will go through short and shuffle phase. Even though while you are explaining, suppose if anyone asks any interview question, and if they give a small problem statement, think there may be a chance multiple mappers can launch based on the data. Go ahead, Supreet. I think you have some doubt.
Yeah. When this its grouping is happening in short and shuffle, how the reducer will start when mapper is in progress?
Okay, very good. So if we see, when we executed one second. Shall I execute one more time? Yep. Let's move. Let me take this as 7. Okay. If you see, let me go up. If you see here, before completing your map, your reducer started. This is what I have explained last class, right? So normally it should work on top of. It should work on top of. Once a mapper is completed, your reducer should start. But in this case, map is 71% only. Reducer started 19%. Why? So there may be 10 mappers. There may be 10 mappers. If the 10 mappers are working, so I'll be considering all 10 mappers is 100%, right? All 10 mappers are I'll consider as a single task. Why? Because when I show in the two phases, only one map phase, one reduce phase, even though it's a 10 mappers or 20 mappers, I have to take it as a all 10 mappers task is 100%. So by the time of 71%, maybe 6 mappers are completed, maybe 6 or 5 mappers are completed. So those what are the mappers are they completed, I started copying the data output. I started copying the data to another machine, or it may launch in the different machine, or it may launch whichever the slot is free. So we are using Hadoop 2. There is no slot concept here. I'll talk about that. So first to try to understand, there may be a chance the map tasks are launched in 10 machines. There may be a chance the reducer may launch in the 11th machine, or there may be a chance your reducer may launch in the first machine or second machine, any of the machine, which machine has the reducer free reducer slot. Correct? So now if your reducer is launched in the 11th machine, whatever the output is given by the 1 to 10 machines, the output has to be copied, or no? We have to
Yeah.
copy all the output of the mapper to the 11th machine, right? There, there it will apply the sort and shuffle logic. That's why if you see this, there may be 5 mappers or 4 mappers or 2 mappers are completed here. They started copying the data. Actually, it's not launched the reducer. They started copying the data. They started implementing the sort and shuffle. Then the reducer is executed. So you can see here, your mapper is still running. Your reducer is not yet launched. Your mapper is running, your reducer is not yet launched. Clear, Suprit, your doubt?
You mean it's the reducer is started. It doesn't mean that it started collecting the output. It's just getting the collecting the output from the MapReduce. It will
Correct.
not do process anything.
Correct. So reducer started means it doesn't mean that in the I'm talking about in this in the process, in the I can say in this console, in the job progress I'm talking about. Job progress. So the reducer started like a 10%, like 5%, like 2% or 1%. It doesn't mean that your actual reduced task is executing. It doesn't mean that the actual reduced task is executing. There may be it started collecting the outputs. Maybe it started applying the short and shuffle.
You mean short and shuffle will be considered as a reducer section, Ravi?
That's what, yeah.
Or
So
in between.
actually, that's what. When you have only two phases, mapper phase and reduce phase. See here, how many phases I'm showing in the console? How many phases it's showing? Only two phases, mapper and reducer. Yes or no? Map and reduce.
Yes.
So when you consider only two phases, map phase is collecting the input. So even though map phase reading the creating input splits, reading the record lines and passing that to mapper, these are all comes under mapper phase only, right? Once the data is ready, once your data is ready, when the job is launched, it has to create the input splits, it has to create a record reader, and it has then after record reader only, see here, it has to find the blocks, it has to find the input splits and record reader. These are all comes under whatever the things you are doing before map, those are comes under map phase only, right? When you consider only two phases, your input split, your record reader, your map task, everything will comes under mapper phase. And your copying, shuffling, sorting, all will comes under reducer phase because it's out of the mapper. It's came out from the mapper. So that time the mapper is not executing. No, mapper output is emitted means map job is done. Map is completed. Map is finished. Then it not comes under mapper phase. It comes under the next phase. So they don't want to show is copying now, shuffling now, sorting now, and reducing now. They don't want to show like they're showing only two phases in the logs. So that's why they have shown only two phases. But actually these are multiple phases. After the mapper output, there will be something called partitioning will be there, combiner will be there, shorten shuffle will be there, reducer will be there. I mean copying phase will be there, then reducer phase will be there. So there will be multiple phases will be there. We'll see those things. So based on the it's just we're doing a first program of the MapReduce. So coming classes we'll see all these things. Okay. Now as this is we have discussed about last class, I want to repeat one more time. When you have a map and reduce, where will be output? Your output will be in a HDFS. Yes or no? Now I have emitted this. I have executed this command. So my output will go where? My output will go to here. Let me show you /Vera. If I say /Vera here,
Wordcount 1.
Wordcount 1 is created. Where is my output? My output is in HDFS. Suppose if you have a map only job, that time also the output will go to HDFS. That time also output will be HDFS only. Guys, in the real time, always the output will be in HDFS. Irrespective of either Mapreduce is launched or map only launched. Only map is launched. But in processing, right? Your map is processing, reducer is processing, right? If you see here, if you see here, this map is completed, right? Map is completing means map has started giving the output, right? Map started giving output, right? Where the output is goes, that output will go to local disk of each name node. When you have a map and reduce, when you have a map and reduce, when you have a map and reduce, the mapper output will go to local disk of each data node. Local disk of each data node. That is called intermediate keys. That is called intermediate values. The intermediate value always go to local disk of the data node. If you have a map and reduce, if you have a map only, there is no local disk here. It will directly go to HDFS only. The mapper output will directly go to HDFS. Understand, guys? When the map and reduce launched, when the map and reduce launched, you cannot see. When the map and reduce launched, you cannot see mapper output. When map only job, then only you can see the mapper output. Okay, so let me finish. Let me explain the driver class, then we'll see. Guys, everyone is clear about the mapper and reducer? This is very much important. So why I'm explaining a couple of times, we should understand what is the mapper phase, what is the reducer phase, what's happening in the mapper, what is happening in the reducer, why we are taking key value, why we are emitting key value, so that we need to understand. Understood, right, guys, everyone? Okay, let's look at the driver class. In the driver class, I'm creating a configuration object. Why I'm creating configuration object? Because I need, see, if you didn't create a configuration object also, there will be a default configuration object. There will be a default configuration object. Why I'm creating configuration object here? There may be some changes I want to do here. I want to do some changes. Let's say the split size I have taken like this. I want to change the split size. I want to set in the configuration. I want to set this split size in the configuration. So how will I do that? Config dot set. Let me show you here. But it's not a right time to show that, but for explanation it is required. Set, and you'll be having your property for the split size. Okay, let's say it's not let me get that if you want. HDFS default. It will not search here, so let me search here. Let's look at here. Mapreduce dot input dot file input dot split dot minimum size. Suppose, so by default it's 0. So one input format, they will have their own input split size. That's what we have seen in the previous classes. Now I want to give my input split size. What I will do, I will write like this. Guys, this is important. Suppose if you want to set your own configuration in your driver class, we have to do like this. So here I'll say 1 minimum split size. I'll say 1. I'll say 1. I'll say like this. I'll say like this. This is correct. There's nothing wrong in this. Okay, but the place where I have kept is wrong. Okay, that's why it is showing error. So it should not be in this place. It should be in some specific method, either in the main method or in the your run method. Let me show you. Suppose I want to keep my own configuration. Like this I need to do. It's a set string or set int. So if I want to set like this, if I want to set like this, I need to put, I should need like this. That's why we're creating a configuration object here. That's why we're creating a local configuration object. And if you want to do any modifications, that's why we're doing a modifications in this. So we have created a configuration object, and why we need a main method? The process should go from here. The process should go from here from this main method, right? So tool runner, for time being, for time being, your driver class should extend the configure and tools. You just keep in mind that it has to be there. Let's assume that it's a syntax, but there is an alternative way also. But the standard way is we'll extend the configured and implements the tool. Okay, I'll explain the detail why tool, why configured, why can't directly write without extending. You can write without extending. You can write the main method. You can do that. Okay, but if you need some configurations, which you need to give your own configurations, that time it will not be possible. Okay, so that I will explain anyway later. Let's look at here. Tool runner dot run method. This run method is taking configuration object. This run method is taking configuration object, and it is taking the job object, your tool object. Actually it is a job object. Job is nothing but your word count job, and arguments. Arguments are your input and output. We have given input and output here. You have given input and output here. These are the arguments. This is the argument 0, this is argument 1, and space, you can give anything. You can give anything. That's up to you. You can give any number of input arguments you can give along with the job. Those are not only the those are not these two only. You can give any number of input files. You can input parameters. You can give any number of input parameters here. Not only two. Okay, not only your input and output. You can give, if you want to give, you can input split size, you can give here. If you want to give how many splits has to be, I mean how many mappers has to launch, we cannot define how many mappers has to launch. We will not be having a control here. You can set how many reducers you can set here. Like that you can pass any number of parameters. You can pass any configuration from here. Okay, you can pass the split size from here. Okay, so what, any parameters you can pass from the command line argument. So those arguments will be available here. So what is this argument? This is collection of, this is array of strings. Array is nothing but a collection, group of, correct? So array of arguments. So whatever the position you give after the space, let's say the first argument space, second argument space, third argument space, fourth argument, like 0 position, first position, second position. So these arguments will be considered, it will take as an array. So first 0 index, first index, second index, it will go like that. Okay, so why I'm doing this? Because after executing this job, as soon as I call run method, the run method will get called, your run method in the driver class. How it will call, I'll show you the source code. Because internally it will be having a run method. Internally it creates the configuration object, and it will call the run method. That also I'll show you. And you have to set your configuration. Suppose you have done some modifications in your configuration, that configuration should be available with your job. That's why we'll be creating a job object. The job is the class from the Mapreduce, which will work as a Mapreduce job. And set jar by class, I'll also explain this, because it has to identify which is the jar I need to execute. That's why we are setting all the jars by class. So this also I'll tell you, so not to worry. The set name is for the name of the your name of your name of your job. If you see, where is that? If you see applications, if you see finished jobs or running jobs, whatever it is, what is the name of the job? Whatever the name you have set there, it will take that name here. Whatever the name you set there, it will take that name here. Okay. So by seeing this, I can understand, okay, word count job. Yeah, this is word count job I have launched. Okay, like that you can easily understand. That's why we kept the driver class there, the name there. And my job should understand, see, your jar file, while you're creating your jar file, you created a jar file like this, right? And you're executing. In the in this jar files, there may be chance so many mapper class might be available. For the job, for the specific job, which mapper class I have to take, you have to specify here. Which reducer class I have to take, you have to specify here. Set mapper class, set reducer class. What I'm trying to do here, I'm setting my mapper class name, I'm setting my reducer class name to my job. This word count job is nothing but object of your job object. You are setting the what is your mapper, what is your reducer to your job. Okay, then what will be the my map output key class? As I explained before, in the data types in Hadoop is all are wrapper classes. So you need to dot class only. Everyone will be having a dot class. Let's look at here. Text. Text is what? It's a class. Text is what? It's a class. Text is a class. If you take int writable, it is also class. If you take long writable, it's also class. So that's why text dot class, int writable dot class, we're specifying like this. That's why we're specifying like this. So mapper output key, mapper output value, you have to specify. You have to specify, otherwise your framework will not understand. What is your final output? What is the final output key? What is the final output value? You have to specify that as well. So did I specify the K1 V1? I only specified K2 V2, K2 V2 and K3 V3. Yes or no? This is a mapper output, this is a reducer output. I didn't specify the K1 V1. So then how your job will recognize the K1 V1? How your job will take the K1 V1? Who will tell? So when I divide the processor, if I divide it into K1 V1, K2 V2, K3 V3, yep. Here I have specified the type of the K2 V2 in the driver class. I have specified the K2 V2 in the driver class. I have specified the K3 V3 in the driver class, but I didn't specify the K1 V1. Why? Why? So
That will take it by mapper class.
yes, it's not mapper class actually. Based on the your input split, based on the input format. If you see here, based on the input format, what type of input format you are using? Step 3. See here. Based on the input format, your K1 V1 will be decided by the framework. Decided by the framework. You no need to tell it. Already your framework knows what is input format. So it knows what is my key 1, what is my value 1. So that's why you no need to specify the K1 V1 in your driver class. So if you are giving a if you're that's the K1 V1 will be calculated by based on the input format class. So if you didn't define any input format, did I define any input format in my driver class? I didn't define any input format. So then which input format will take? It will take the default input file format, which is text input format, clear? Which is text input format, let's say I have something called my own input format. Apart from the text input format, any file input format, guys. Apart from the text input format, any file format. Let me say this is my XML as an input, my own class. Let's say it's my own class. I need to tell to my job what is my what is my input class by setting set input format class. I need to specify set input format class. If it is a text input format, you don't need to tell. By default, your framework can understand. But if it is something called sequence, let's say sequence file input format, sequence file as a binary. Let's say I'm taking this one example. I'm just showing you an example. So you have to specify. You have to specify. You have to specify set input format class. You have to specify set input format class. Okay. The same way you have to set the output format also, because the default output format is a text output. If you are specifying something called sequence file or something called, you have to specify your output class also. You have to specify your output class also. Clear? So you have to tell, you don't need to tell what is our K1 V1. You have to tell only what is the input format. If you tell only what is the input format, it will automatically takes your K1 V1. It automatically takes the input splits. It automatically takes the record reader, and it automatically processes the data. Okay, and this is your input path. I'm setting input path. So argument 1, as I explained before, argument 0 is my input 1. Argument 1 is my output. So it not be always 0 has to be input, 1 has to be output. No. Whatever the order you give here, let's say if I given like this, first I have given output slash word count 2, then I have given the input. Then I have given the input. Let's say if I give like this, it will work. It is not like it will look, but your logic also has to change here. Logic also has to change. Your output format has to be 0, because first you have given output format, and input file, output path. Output path has to be 0 here, and input path also has to be 1 here. 1 here. Understand? Based on the arguments you specify here, you should give the arguments the same manner here while submitting the job. If you give like this, WC is the 0th argument and your input is the first argument, your code also should be 0 should be output to path, first argument 1 should be input path. Otherwise it will try to pick 0 as the input, so which does not have, there won't be any output in this WC2, then it will throw exception, it will fail it. Let's see, it will just fail it. Look at, when I submit a job, it will just fail. Input path does not exist in this path, does not exist. Why? Because your first argument it is considering as a input. So if you don't have input, it will fail the job. Okay, and this is just a simple code. I'll explain this code later. Nothing. So your output directory should not exist. The output directory should not exist. Your Mapreduce framework will create that output directory. Your Mapreduce framework will create output directory. So if it is already exist, we need to delete and recreate. That's what this code is doing, and I'm submitting the job. Your job dot wait for the completion is nothing but submitting a job and waiting for the response. If it is submitted successfully, true. If you submitted successfully, it is true, it will return 0, else it will return 1. Okay, understand? So this is about the driver class. Next class we'll be seeing some more examples, and one thing I would like to inform you guys, please check whether I have shared the, let me see, I have shared all the programs to you guys. If you guys didn't get the programs of, I think I have given access to this. Okay, I do remember I have given access to this. Please check whether I have given access to this Mapreduce. In this Mapreduce, something called programs are there. In the programs, this is all programs in single place. It's a project actually. You can download it, and you can import as a project. So all the code is available here. SRC, COM, Vera, whatever the job you are doing is MR jobs, right? MR, inside the MR you have a word count. You have a word count. It's a sequence file word count. Let me show you. Jobs, inside the MR jobs you have all the programs here. You have all the programs here. So I request you to go through if you get a chance. So if you get a chance, please make use of these programs and try practicing it. What is the maximum length word, searching, replacing, those things we will see in the upcoming classes. Guys, that's it for today. Thanks for your time, and I'm sorry for the late.